Welcome back to Something in the Wilderness. Today we are recapping the New Friends tour. I am here with Andrew Ware, who was on the show with me just a couple of weeks ago talking about television, and we promised we'd get back together and talk about the tour, the current tour, because we were both going to separate shows. Andrew went to 2, I went to 1, and I wanted to hear all about his experience and kind of compare the two. So, how you doing tonight, Andrew?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for coming back. You went to the Nashville, Tennessee show a few weeks back, and then St. Louis, last week?
Last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday, and I was at Columbus, Ohio the prior Friday, so mine was right sandwiched in between yours by about a week. All right, so in last time you were here, I was like, don't tell me anything about the show because I want to experience it myself. I want the spoilers. But naturally, I saw things on Instagram and Facebook. It's unavoidable. And so I saw some of the set lists, like a set list would be posted here, here and there, and I would just be scrolling through really quickly to try to avoid it. And I saw videos and people mentioning, oh, I love that he played this song, but it's all good. Like, I understand the excitement. So let's just start by kind of leading up to the show. Were there songs, whether you heard them or not in concert, were there songs that you go into these concerts with an idea like, I want to hear this song?
So I'm like you, Steve. I want to hear the deep cuts. Like, I'm in a, like, I gotta, like, every time you say, like, gotta catch them all, I always think of Pokemon. But seriously, like, I really want, like, the deeper the cut, the happier I am. But also, like, I love Fire Escape. I love High Dive is up there of, like, my favorite songs that he plays live. And then the intro to Dark Blue, like, I'm always kind of like, maybe if he left Dark Blue off the set list, I wouldn't be totally bummed. But then when the intro starts, I love it because it's just like, I feel like it's one of those Easter eggs for fans who know his live shows, because like as soon as you hear the beat that J-Mac starts playing, you're like, oh, it's Dark Blue.
Yeah.
But the whole crowd doesn't know that, so it's always fun to be like, oh, Dark Blue's coming. Although this time, with it being at the end of the set, it wasn't as much of a surprise, but I love seeing that song. And of course, La 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 La, like with the llama. How can you not love that song?
Yeah. You just listed all the regulars, right? And yeah, speaking of Dark Blue, here's the irony in what you just said. Like you said, you knew it was coming. I don't know how. I think it was just because it was a kind of a unique concert experience overall for me. And like where we were standing at the time, which, I'll touch back to. I talked about it with my kids earlier on. They played Dark Blue last for us. And we're going to jump all around, by the way. So they played Dark Blue last for us as well. And I had forgotten about Dark Blue. How do you forget about Dark Blue? But I was like, oh, what are they going to end with? I actually thought they were going to end with the song they played second to last, which we'll get to. And I thought that would have been a good closer. It was very celebratory. It was very fun. It was very kind of festive. But then they busted in Dark Blue, and I'm like, oh yeah, they haven't played Dark Blue yet. How could I forget? So in a way, it did surprise me in some weird roundabout way. Like, I knew going into the show they would play Dark Blue, but I didn't realize until the end that I had not seen Dark Blue yet.
I wasn't disappointed with Dark Blue in Nashville, because I'm never disappointed with that song, but it was the karaoke song, so they didn't do the intro or anything.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. We definitely got to talk about those karaoke performances because, yeah, it has the potential to change the song for you a little bit when, especially, like, if it's a song that you're really looking forward to hearing, it's got to be done at least slightly differently, like you just mentioned. So what I did, so everybody listening knows, I printed all 3 set lists because, I don't know, at least for me, there's no way I'm going to remember 3 set lists to look at. So I have them right in front of me to reference because there's so much to dig in on these. Okay, so let's talk about that karaoke thing for a moment. You did not apply for the karaoke contest, is that right?
No, I did not. Nobody wants to hear me sing.
Yeah, so I like to sing, and I do actual karaoke at karaoke bars sometimes, and I enjoy that, but my range is very narrow. I mean, I can do some Gin Blossoms, some Better Than Ezra, some like 80s stuff. There's probably like 10 or 12 songs in my wheelhouse that I can get up there and be pretty confident with. But the thing is, with me anyway, besides my limited range, I have trouble remembering lyrics, and that's come up a lot on this show. So how am I going to get on stage in front of over 1,000 people and remember the words to an Andrew song? It's
Yep.
just not going to happen. It would just be embarrassing. That was one of the reasons I didn't do it. I just wasn't confident enough in my ability to hit Andrew's range for the reasons I just stated. So it wasn't going to happen. But I was looking forward to seeing what came of it. But as you heard earlier, my daughters did apply, and that was kind of a separate thing. I didn't really encourage them to apply. They did that on their own on my wife's Instagram. I was there for it, of course. But I was like, okay, you can go ahead and apply, and we'll see what happens. But what happened was, and my younger one kind of alluded to this, I guess I did kind of set them up for it inadvertently, because we were on a road trip. My wife was driving, and I played like probably 50 of those videos for them. And we were just all four of us were loving it. We're listening to all the reels on Instagram, just getting a kick out of it. Like, some of them were very, very good. Again, I was like, okay, kids, you can apply. It also takes a certain level of, again, confidence to get up there on stage and do that. I was proud of them for giving it a shot.
I thought that was really cool that they did, and the whole story that happened because of it. That's just what a cool experience for them.
Yeah, he can really make someone's night and week and month and year, and that's what he did for us. So it was pretty special.
Yeah, he did for me too. Honestly,
that's awesome. Yeah, that's right. So you did VIP in Nashville. Did you do VIP in St. Louis again?
Yes. Yeah, I did VIP for both.
That's fun. Tell us about that. You kind of mentioned on the television episode that you got all your vinyls signed at the Nashville show. Like, what do you usually talk to Andrew about?
I asked him about something from the podcast.
Oh, that's right.
And then in St. Louis, I just let my wife kind of talk to him and show him a picture of the baby and all that stuff, and kind of just update him on how the baby's doing, and kind of just let her kind of lead the conversation, because she kind of had that ready to go. And he just he was like, it's great to see you guys, so happy you came out, really love seeing you. He just told us several times, like, they just love seeing us, so glad that we made it out to the show. And then in Nashville, I stayed after and saw him again after the show, and he hugged both Stewie and I, and was like, I love you guys, I'm so happy that you guys came out. It's like, we don't deserve him. But at the end of VIP in St. Louis, so Ruthless was the karaoke song from the show the night before, and I've been chasing Ruthless since my very first time I saw him. He played it the night before I saw him for the first time ever in 2017. I was really hoping that he would play it again, and it's not a song that commonly makes it on the set list. I didn't know that at the time and all that stuff. And so at the end of VIP this time, I was like, if you can't do it, it's not a big deal, but if Ruthless could make it on the set list tonight, I would really appreciate it. And he jokingly kind of was like, man, the set lists get longer and longer. He revealed in the VIP soundcheck that Straw Dog was the karaoke song. So he's like, we're already playing Straw Dog tonight. Set list just keeps getting longer and longer, and kind of laughed at me. I was like, hey, no big deal if you can't do it. And so he didn't confirm or deny anything. And then during the show, when he introed Ruthless, he looked directly at me, freaking out, because cause he starts talking about his old tour manager that he parted ways with, and I'm assuming he knew, because I requested the song, I knew the story behind the song. And so he looked right at me and just smiled at me, freaking out about him playing the song. And that was the coolest thing ever. Him finding me in the crowd, we were up front, but him finding me and just looking at me and just kind of grinning at me was how many artists do stuff like that? He could have not done that, and I would have loved the song just as much. But the fact that he was he's I got you. We're playing. It was already on the set list. It wasn't
oh, it was on the official set list. Huh?
It was on the official set list.
That's right.
Too,
yeah,
but,
I saw that on Instagram.
It was just one of those moments. What a great guy. And I know your daughter alluded to it on the episode, but never meet your heroes unless it's Andrew McMahon, because even back from his Something Corporate days, I've never heard anything. Everybody's he's so nice and he's so genuine, and I mean, he just continues to be like that, and it's I don't know, we don't deserve a guy like that.
it's like talking to a friend.
Yeah.
Even though I don't know him very well, like it's like talking to, an old, like he's comfortable, like he makes it comfortable for you, and I appreciate that. But yeah, something you said I want to go back to, and that's, when he looks at you at a show, like he knows how to make someone feel special. He's very good at it, and I think I've said this on the show before. He's genuinely interested in his fans. He genuinely cares about his fans. And so when he looks at you during a show, like he's being genuine about it, like when he smiled at you. And that's happened to me before, because I've only been up front for a couple of shows total, but both times at one point he looks at me and it's like, wow, like, and he's talked about this before in interviews, he feeds off that energy. So if he looks at you and he sings you, like singing your head off to I Woke Up in a Car, like if you're having a good time, he's having a good time.
He also looked at me too during the mixtape. The intro started, and I like threw both my hands up, just like, yeah, because I was so excited. And he was like, you guys know this? He looked at me, he smiled, looked at me, he's like, you guys know this one? I was just like,
yeah, a little bit. Heard that one before. That's one of those that song is never going to get old to me. It's like if he plays that every single time, I'm really good with it.
I'm so happy it's made it a regular appearance on the set list now. And yeah, same thing. He can play that forever.
Yeah, so you got the mixtape in Nashville, but then in St. Louis you didn't, right? You got I'm Ready though, or you got I'm Ready both times, didn't you?
No, we got the mixtape in St. Louis as well. That's actually where that happened. And
okay.
We got I'm Ready both times. Every time I've ever seen him play it, and I've seen it quite a few times now, he's always done the speaking part.
I like the speaking. I think everybody likes that part. We kind of like all yell sing along when he, those of us who know the song do that part. So that's a fun one, and it's got those like key lyrics that you kind of wait for in that song when you're listening to the album. So I'm not upset that I missed I'm Ready this time around. We didn't get that one, but it's a great song. I love it. But I've seen it a few times, so I'm pretty good that, again, probably like the mixtape. I'd be okay if he played it even more. So let's talk about how he opened the show. By this point, you'd seen that before, right? Like Nobody Tells You When You're Young. So that wasn't a surprise to you, right?
It was in Nashville. I knew that he did it during it. I didn't know he was opening the set with that every time.
Okay.
I guess I missed it on the last tour that was what he was opening with. Mm-hmm. I knew he did the music box thing during the song. I didn't know it was the opener though, so that was really cool.
Oh, cool. So that was a surprise. Yeah, he came out like 10 people behind us, like and just kind of popped up out of nowhere. I love how he does that. Like he somehow sneaks into the crowd, pops up. His tour manager or whoever is holding the spotlight on him. And he walks through the crowd. It just feels so intimate when he's out in the crowd with us. Mm-hmm. Like he's just there with us, And I think that's the mood he's tried to create for many years now when he does come out into the crowd and sings with people. But that's what I love about that. It's an interesting way to open the show, though, don't you think?
It's super interesting. It reminds me of, and I think you mentioned this on the episode that you talked about it, it reminds me of the opening for Upside Down Flowers with
Right.
Everything Must Go. Although I will say Nobody Tells You When You're Young has remained one of my favorites off the album. Everything Must Go is not like my favorite track off the album, but the opening, seeing it live, that was so good. I think that out of all the shows I've seen, that was my favorite because he emerges with the piano. I think that was like the coolest intro that I've seen. But it was always surprising to me because I do look at set lists before and I saw that was the opener. I'm like, how is he going to do this? Because usually like he kind of just walks on the stage and I'm like, that's a really weird song to kind of just walk on the stage to, but then like the way he did it was so perfect. And again with this, like him coming out with a slow song, very intimate feel to it, it worked perfect.
Right.
And if you would tell me that the set is like a psychedelic summer camp, as he called it, like you open with Nobody Tells You When You're Young, I would think, how does that fit? But it worked amazingly.
We enjoyed that, and the kids enjoyed that too, just kind of having him walk right past us in the crowd. And again, it's just, if you don't go to Andrew McMahon concerts frequently like you and I do, it's really surprising to see the guy that's the lead singer of the band like right in front of you out in the crowd. It's like, wow, he's just right there among the people. It just feels special. I think it makes people feel special. I am surprised that he's done it for like, I don't know, I'm gonna guess 30 shows now. I really have no idea. Another song that I feel like is becoming a regular in the a staple in the set list, and maybe that's just because it was the first single off of the new album. It's been around a while now, and people seem to like it. But Stars seems to be played every time he plays. Like, I don't think he's played a show without Stars since it came out.
I agree. As we found out in the trivia episode, a little plug to go listen to that, not just because I was on it. It's a good episode. We found out that it made the adult alternative charts. Obviously, it's a pretty popular song, not just amongst Andrew fans. It's a great song.
Yeah.
I noticed that looking at the set list that it was the third song at all three shows, and I'm wondering
Oh, right. I see
if
that
you would
now.
go look at other shows if it's the third song as well. Seems to be one that he really plays early in the set. I mean, I think some of that is intentional.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if he must really like that song.
Yeah, I think he's talked about how it's special to him. The lyrics are special. It was about a pretty important moment in his life, about a very important person, obviously. You know, now that I look at it, Fire Escape followed Stars in all three set lists that we're looking at here today, too.
Yes.
Did you notice that?
I actually, as I was talking, I was like, oh, look, Fire Escape's next on it, too.
Yeah.
So that, yeah.
After that, it gets slightly different. So, but let's talk about some of the new stuff, because you told me on the last episode, Tilt to the Wind No More is pretty up there for you. Once you heard the full album through, you felt like it was a pretty special collection of music. And in each of these set lists, and I think it's been consistent throughout the tour or pretty close, they've played 6 songs off of the new album. And if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, there's 11 songs on the new album, I think. And they're playing just over half of the album every show on this tour. Is that good for you, or do you want him to be playing about half of the album, or what?
Honestly, I'm surprised, because usually his album tour includes the whole album. I think that's been pretty consistent with. Maybe he didn't play This Wild Ride on every tour on Upside Down, or every show on Upside Down Flowers, but he played the vast majority of that album. Maybe not Good Night Rock and Roll, but it is less. And when you looked at everything leading up to the Nashville show, I don't know how much you looked at the set list. It was a pretty consistent set list. Lying on the Hood of Your Car was on it. I really wanted to see that. Like, it didn't vary very. The variation was between Halls and Driving Through a Dream, I think, and everything else was pretty much the same. So I was really intrigued when we got to Nashville that he changed up the set list a lot, and I was really, really excited about that. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I was at the show that kind of shifted the set list for the tour, which is pretty cool, because he does that if you creep on a set list like I do, but he'll do that, and it's never always the same. But a lot of times I feel like when the first few shows, you'll be like, okay, those are going to be the consistent songs off of the new album or whatever, but then he kind of flipped that on his head too.
Yeah.
I did want to see Line on the Hood of Your Car, so I was kind of like, I was a little disappointed. Not disappointed because both set lists were phenomenal, but I did definitely want to see that song. And then VHS would have been fun live. I worked really hard to learn it, so
so you could know the words.
But I will take the set list. I think if he is going on a hiatus, it makes sense that he would want to do a set list that isn't all the new album. If this is going to be it for a little while, I think he wanted to play for fans like, I mean, Halls is a super deep cut. Amy I, super deep cut.
Yeah.
You got Kill the Messenger, another super deep cut. Rainy Girl, I mean, that one hasn't been common at all.
I had never seen Rainy Girl in concert.
And neither had I.
I actually thought you saw Lying on the Hood of Your Car. Now that I'm looking at the set list, I see you did not. But you did get Little Disaster. I saw Little Disaster just on a piano back in June, which was phenomenal. And that's currently, it's shifted sometimes, but that's currently my favorite song on the new album. I would have liked to see that one.
I was super pumped for Little Disaster. That is my favorite song off the new album. Time will tell where it ranks, but it's definitely in the top for me. Obviously, we've talked on here about my sobriety, so just the connection I have with that song is immense.
Mm-hmm.
And he played it in Soundcheck and in Nashville, and that had not been on the playlist. Maybe it was early on, but the shows leading up to Nashville, it hadn't been on the playlist. And I was like, oh man, I really want to hear that song. So I was really excited when he soundchecked it. I was really excited. I think I recorded it both in soundcheck and at the show when he played it. And at the end of the show, I actually told him how much the song meant to me and like about my sobriety. And he was like, oh, just thank you. I was like, when you, just the emotion and the connection that I have to songs like that, I just thanked him for that. So that was a cool moment too.
That's awesome that you got a chance to tell him that. And how could he ever get tired of hearing things like that a song's lyrics or something about a song that he wrote touched us in such a way that, you know, had either reminded us of something important in our lives or made an impact on us. That song will live in your heart in maybe a different way than it would live in mine, but it's very personal to you.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of new songs still, did he do Smokin' Ribbons? Did he start it off acoustically and then come into the full band eventually? Because he did that with us, and I love the way they did that because I'm really a big fan of the piano-only version of Smokin' Ribbons.
See, this is where my memory gets fuzzy.
That's all right.
I think he did it as a full band. Started piano into a full band both times. Because I'm looking at where it is in the set list, and it was not during like the acoustic part, which there was a much longer acoustic part in Nashville, which we should talk about. But I'm looking at St. Louis. Rainy Girl was the only song that was just him.
I was able to see Smokin' Ribbons back in May, full band version. You know, again, kind of like the deep cuts conversation that we get into. I just like to see them change it up sometimes, and they did that a few times. I just loved hearing these songs done a little bit differently. I was surprised when they did Punk Rock Princess acoustically last year when I saw them. I got to see that again this time around. That wasn't even listed on our official set list, but they ended up sticking it in there during the encore. And Bobby got on the mic. And did you guys get that too, where Bobby gets on the mic and just really breaks it down with the vocals?
So we can go into it right now. I do want to talk about the acoustic set in Nashville.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, go for it.
Andrew came out and did Last Rites by himself, and it was so good. I cried. It was so good.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Just seeing that song acoustically was, oh my gosh. Oh, that was one of the highlights of both shows was that song. Then like the whole Rainstorm like screwed up somehow, and he didn't know what he was doing with it, and then he ended up playing Rainy Girl, and then after Rainy Girl, Zach came out because it was in Nashville, and Zach lives in Nashville.
Zach, who wasn't on the tour.
Yes,
but he lives there. Okay.
Yeah, so he came out, and they weren't supposed to do a longer acoustic set, but they did Watch This Guy and Punk Rock Princess acoustic with Zach, Bobby, and Mikey harmonizing. And Bobby was a clown. I've never seen Bobby. Like, he kept doing funny stuff to throw it off and, like, giving Andrew looks and just, like, clowning around the entire time. It was so funny. And
that's awesome.
There was a friend of mine named Jill who's been over 200 shows through all the acts, and she was like, I've never seen Bobby act like that on stage before. And so like it was hilarious. So I was Stewie, and he thought it was funny. The person next to me didn't really know how to take it, and so I was like, I'm wondering how this is going over with people who don't know Bobby and Andrew. And it was hilarious. I actually have all four of them on video. I actually just ended up recording the whole thing because it was just like, this is priceless. Like, so.
Oh, I'd love to see that. That sounds fun. So, and Zach was on stage for all that, right? You said?
Yeah.
Like they were all goofing around together. It's so much fun seeing artists that you love have fun on stage. I've said it a million times on here. That's part of the charm of the live show, is just being there for those moments. Of course, you want to see the music and you want to hear the music, maybe somewhat the way you expect to hear it, or maybe some variation on it. But to see them having fun, getting goofy, or just those special moments, maybe it's an emotional moment, just something that you're not going to get anywhere else in the world other than in a live environment where people are performing music and just being in that moment.
Yeah, I'm really glad in that same thought. I'm really glad I got to see Rainy Girl without the shadow puppets the first time. My first time, because that's another song I've been chasing. Yeah, I mean, I will say I've been chasing that song because I've never seen it.
Yeah.
He played it on Pen and Piano some, didn't play it at the St. Louis stop where I saw it. Kind of that made sense in that. Thought maybe I'd see it on Winter in the Wilderness again. Thought it made sense there. So I'm kind of surprised I've never seen it. And I was really happy when I saw it on the set list for this tour and saw that it was like a rainstorm and that it wasn't going to go away because it's like that's obviously part of the show. So I was really excited to see it in Nashville. And then in St. Louis, they did the not sock puppet, shadow puppet thing.
Shadow puppets. Yeah, I almost called it a sock puppet too, but yeah, shadow puppet.
Which was hilarious, but also like I'm really glad I got to see it without that one time as well.
I will say that's one of those moments that I enjoyed more because my kids were there, because it was very entertaining for them, and to see their reactions and just kind of point out, do you see what's going on back there? Do you see what they're doing? And they loved it. And for that reason, I loved it more than I would have. But it was an interesting choice to do such a serious song and do something goofy in the back. So Mikey and Bobby came out after that, out of the tent. And I know that was part of the whole, like the gag. I thought that part of the gag was like, oh, it's like they were doing it. Ha ha ha. Like someone out back there obviously is doing it. And then they come out and say, oh, it was us. But I asked Andrew after the show, and it really is them. It really is Mikey and Bobby, which was probably clear to most people. But for some reason, again, like going back to what you just said, like I didn't know they were that goofy. It was Bobby with the making the gestures, and Mikey had the light, is my understanding. I think that's what Andrew told me. And I guess I just assumed it was like someone who they had in the crew that happened to be really good at doing shadow puppets or whatever. And then the gag was that, ha ha ha, it's my band members doing it. But no, that was actually the band members doing it. Didn't know they had that Bobby had that extra talent there of making shadow puppets on a tent. So pretty fun though. Just something fun. And I think, there were a lot more kids in the audience at the show than I've noticed before, but I was probably more in tune to it because my kids were there. I guess it went with the camp theme, but it was just something different again. Just one of those things that you're like, okay, like again, you're not going to see that elsewhere. It's people having fun on stage. I can appreciate all of that.
Yeah.
That's really neat that you got those extra acoustic songs that Zach came out because, actually, I want to talk about Zach, or more like the absence of Zach on this tour. So I found it really interesting that he wasn't on the tour, and I was surprised, and I wasn't really sure why. What I do want to point out is that when Zach's not there, the other people in the band, Andrew included, have to make up for it somehow. I don't know if that occurred to you during the show, but it did to me. There's different things I've noticed, like especially Bobby and Andrew in particular, do vocally and musically that they don't necessarily have to do if Zach's back there. That sound has to be made up for somewhere because he's doing a lot back there, let's face it. It was something that occurred to me about halfway through the set. I'm like, oh, they're doing something a little, like Bobby's doing something a little different on the guitar, and sometimes Andrew does something a little different on the piano. It's because that extra keyboardist and that extra backing vocalist isn't back there.
Something I realized is that Andrew, first, Zach is recording right now, so that's why he's not on tour.
Thanks for clarifying, because
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually hopped on Instagram Live a little bit ago, semi-recently, within the past couple of weeks, and played 2 new songs. And I don't know if you've been following his story. He's actually, I think, is close to finishing a song. He's like, I'm getting the caption was like, I'm going to put out something new a lot sooner than you all expected or something like that. So Big things coming from Zach. I can't wait to hear it. I love his solo stuff. Anyway, something I realized is that Andrew, although he writes all these piano parts and play all these piano parts, obviously, he doesn't always play lead piano when Zach's there.
Right.
Because Andrew's performing, obviously, right? He's jumping around and doing all this stuff, and like, how often does he stand up and start dancing around the stage and all that stuff?
Right, jumping on the piano, jumping in the crowd.
Something I noticed this time is that he had to, I don't think he sat more than usual because I think Mikey played a lot of it, but then Mikey was picking up the stuff that Zach usually does, or Zach and Mikey both do, but it's all now falling on Mikey, and you really kind of hear the, like, you hear it and you see it, but you don't really think about it until you're like, oh, they're missing a guy who does mainly keyboards and is playing a lot of times playing the lead piano part again because Andrew's singing, dancing, commanding the stage.
Right.
So it's really interesting to, I think I noticed too that Andrew was playing more of the parts as well. Obviously, like he wrote a lot of it or co-wrote a lot of it, and you don't think about that stuff until that person's not there.
I completely agree. It was kind of neat to see that change up. I definitely miss Zach on the stage, but it was also neat to see something a little bit different and how the other people in the band all have to adjust to that change and basically make up for it. We'll look forward to his return.
He's so talented. Those of you who follow Zach's music, you know this, and follow Andrew, and you're probably not listening to this podcast unless you do. You hear it, but you don't necessarily see it as much because he's always kind of in back. Like he's not up on the stage like Bobby or Mikey, and you can easily see their part with the band because, they're right there. Zach is in the back. But it is amazing when you look at it, and I guess I'm just encouraging everyone who's seen this tour, everyone who's going to see this tour, to just kind of pay attention to that, because it wasn't something until you just brought this up that I even thought about. It was like, oh yeah, like I definitely notice it now that you've mentioned it, but I don't think at the show it was like thinking about, oh, Zach's not, one band member is not here, and what a huge difference does it make.
We got to talk about the song in the set list that I've been pining to see forever. I've never been able to see, and you got to see both times. Amy I. He played Amy I both times you saw him this tour.
Yes, I could not believe it. He played it because the producer of People and Things lives in Nashville, was in the crowd.
Oh, wow.
He did it at soundcheck, and I've seen him soundcheck that song before. I talked about that last time. I didn't want to mention that you probably knew that he played it in Nashville, but I didn't want to say anything about it.
Right. You said, well, I've seen Amy I in concert, and that's all you said. I remember that.
I've seen him soundcheck it a few times, but it's never made into the set. So when he played it at soundcheck, I was just like, oh, that's cool. Like, love this song. Love seeing him play it in the soundcheck. I don't, is he going to actually play it? Mm-hmm. And then he played it, and I was shocked. I was like, oh, that's so cool. In St. Louis, he started introing a song from People and Things, and I'm just thinking, what song is he about to play? A lot of the times when it's songs like that, I try to record them. And I will say almost every time, like, it might be the shakiest video in the world, but I'll record it. And I was like, oh, I've already heard this and recorded it, so I can just enjoy it. I was shocked that it made another appearance, so maybe People and Things will get some more love on the tours to come.
Shout out to Lindsay in Chicago, because she went to the Madison, Wisconsin VIP, and she told me she asked him why he doesn't play more People and Things, because that's one of, I think you have that in common with her, where that's one of your guys' favorite albums. And he said, it's just not, it didn't have any big hits. And he's like, but, maybe I'll come back to playing some of those songs sometime. And I mean, technically that answer came after he had played Amy I one of the times. So, or actually both the times, technically. Yeah, I think he tries to, bring some of those songs back every once in a while. Like, I know he played Release Me one time earlier this year, and I would love to see that one. I would love to see Amy I, Amelia Jean, Hey, 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 We're All Gonna Die, like Television we talked about. There's a lot of those that can come back to the set list anytime. And I'm missing My Racing Thoughts. How could I leave that one out?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a lot of basically the first half of People and Things. I would be great with seeing live, and the rest of them would be fine too. But that's kind of more my preference looking at the album. So I don't know. So someone's put a bug in his ear recently, and maybe he'll, if he hears it enough. I don't know. I know he's not like taking requests or anything necessarily, but I think fan feedback is important to him.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get some more People and Things in the distant futures because of this possible hiatus that we mentioned earlier.
Yes. Well, I'm amazed that Amelia Jean and Learn to Dance weren't on Three Pianos, because he tells stories about them in the book. Those are the two that I was like, he soundchecked Learn to Dance at the VIP on that tour that I saw. That I think that was in St. Louis too. But I don't think it never made it onto the actual set list. But like, that's the ending to the book. I was amazed that he didn't play that song, but must not have fit.
Yeah, you can only play so many songs too. Those are two songs, the ones you just named, Amelia Jean and Learn to Dance, that I've never heard in concert. I don't know if I ever will. I'd be good hearing them. I'd be happy to hear them, obviously. I like them both a lot. But yeah, it's like we talked about earlier. I'll keep coming back to that. It's like, yeah, I'm always kind of chasing those songs like you are. Those ones that I haven't heard yet or I hear rarely. And speaking of which, so, and I'm sure there's more to talk about here, but I am going to jump up a bit to the end. New Friends, when they announced the New Friends tour, it was funny. I like that song. It's different from anything else in the album. In my opinion, it's different from anything else Andrew's recorded ever. But
yes.
I really like it. It's super catchy. It's a fun little tongue-in-cheek message in a way. I feel like he's really having fun with that song, even on the recording. If they weren't going to play that song, I got to be honest, I was going to be a little like disappointed or at least confused, because it was called the New Friends Tour. But I'm like, are they really going to play that song? It's not a single. It's definitely a deep cut on the album, but it is off the new album, and which they're promoting. That is one of the songs, one of the very few songs that I had no idea they were going to play, to be honest. Like, no idea, just in the way that I hadn't seen any evidence or heard any evidence of it yet. I had an idea they would play it, but I had no idea they were going to do it acoustically with the other bands on stage. So that was really cool. Thank you to, I guess, in general, all Andrew McMahon fans that are on social media, because somehow I did not see any evidence of that on social media. And I was very happy for that, because that was a nice surprise. When they did that, I was like, holy crap, like this is amazing, seeing it done this way, seeing them all, again, have fun on stage together. The whole marshmallow thing, like that was a little weird. They're throwing real marshmallows into the crowd.
Yeah.
I was just kind of confused by that. I get the whole camp theme, but it was just something funny. It's like, I'll never forget being up there and them throwing marshmallows over our heads. You may have heard when I was talking to my daughters earlier that we got to go up front because he invited all the kids up front. So we were like right
cool.
in front of the barricade, and I didn't want to block any kids' view or the people that were on the barricade that legit waited for it. So like as a full-grown adult, I got on my knees on the cement to watch those last three songs. So
wow.
Wasn't the most comfortable thing in the world, but I just didn't want to block anybody's view, but I felt the need to be up there with my young kids too. So I watched all that happen from like next to the speaker down like the side of the stage. I had a decent view though, I'll be honest. Like I had a really good view. I'm very fortunate. So I was seeing all that happen like right in front of me, like 10 feet in front of me. And I'm like down on the floor basically. The kids really enjoyed that. My daughter took a little bit of video, snapped a couple pictures, but I was able to see that right up front. And it was just a fun moment. So that's when they did Punk Rock Princess acoustic, then New Friends acoustic with the other people in the bands, and then they went into Dark Blue, and that's how they ended the show for us. So was it kind of a similar experience for you?
So they did New Friends into La La Lie as the encore, and then in Nashville, and then New Friends into Dark Blue as the encore in St. Louis. And
right.
Yes, it was really funny seeing them in their animal suits. It was really, really funny. I really enjoyed the acoustic version of it. Like, I don't know if you've joked with Marcy, but I've definitely joked with Michelle. Like, you don't want to make new friends, that it? I'm like, kind of. I'm just kidding. But like, like the lyrics are really tongue in cheek. They're meant to be funny, right?
Yeah.
They crack me up. It's like, yeah, I don't want to make new friends. Like, yeah, I'm not good.
It's
like,
tough to make new friends as an adult,
yeah,
firstly.
It's about, yeah, exactly.
It's work.
And it's about it's a tongue in cheek song about commitment to Kelly and commitment to a partner. And it's like, it cracks me up because Michelle's like, yeah, I don't want to make new friends either. So we're stuck together, but like just joking around, of course. But like, yeah, like so it cracked me up when you said that because like I think the same thing. And we like Michelle and I both been kind of laughed about the lyrics of that song.
Mm-hmm.
I also had a full circle moment, not in Nashville but in St. Louis, of like how far we've come since COVID, that we're catching marshmallows off the stage from people and eating them now. So,
yeah.
Like
right. Yeah. I thought that was funny that my daughter was like, "Oh, they were plush marshmallows." And I was like, "What are you talking? They were real." Like I talked to Julie from Cincinnati afterward, and she showed me her marshmallow. I was like, "Okay, it is a real marshmallow because we didn't catch one." And people were eating them, and I thought so. And the kid next to my daughter started eating. His mom was like, "No, don't eat that."
She probably just didn't want, as you said, she probably just didn't want him to eat the marshmallow. But no, I just thought I just was like, oh well, we've really come a long way from COVID. just a funny moment.
Well, we should definitely talk about the openers, but first there's a couple of other songs I definitely want to talk about. They played "Kill the Messenger" in our set, which I don't know if they've played that anywhere else because I haven't looked hard at all the set lists yet. But I was so happy with that song. They did an extended outro. My friend Julie happened to record it from the front barricade.
Oh, nice.
And she told me, you know Julie, and I think it came up on social media, and she's like, yeah, I recorded that one. And I was like, oh my gosh, can you post it on YouTube for me? Because I want to relive that over again. But I didn't record that one. They did a little bit of Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic, like basically just kind of the chorus from The Police in that extended outro.
Oh, wow.
And I love that song anyway. I mean, I haven't covered that song yet on the podcast, but we will get to it one day. And it's a very special song. That's one of the ones, again, I was like, I can't believe I didn't know they were going to do this song. As much as I see on social media, and somehow they still managed to surprise me. They just, kind of dropped that in the middle of the set. That was my favorite moment of the show. I don't know if we've already talked about it yet, but did you have a favorite moment of the show? Of your show? You saw too, but...
That's amazing. On Kill the Messenger. I saw that on your set list. I hadn't looked at your set list till I got your outline, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, what a cool song to see. That is not a regular at all. And I think the only time I've ever seen it was on that 15 Years in Transit tour.
Yep, same.
Chicago,
I saw it I saw it in 10 Years in Transit, 15 Years in Transit, no other time.
Yeah. So my favorite from Nashville is a good question.
Even if it was a moment, it doesn't have to be a song necessarily, but
Little Disaster was up there just because I was really... My favorite moment, other than Zach coming out, was Dead Man's Dollar in Nashville. Ivory Lane, who co-wrote the song with Andrew in Nashville, came out. And she was his opener on the Winter in the Wilderness tour. So I'd seen her before, and she sang with him on that tour, and... Somebody yelled after the song ended, we need a studio version, because we absolutely need a studio version of that song with the two of them on it, because her vocals on it are so good. I don't think I recorded because I was just so caught up in
awe, yeah,
wanting to watch it. I was like, I haven't seen this, like, I've seen it once before in Winter in the Wilderness, and that was just acoustic. So now I'm seeing it with a full band and seeing her on stage with him with a full band, and Bobby and Mikey's backing vocals too. And oh my God, she killed it. So that was probably, I was like, again, like just happened to be on a stop on the tour that got some special moments with Zach and Ivory Lane happening to come out. Yeah, so that was really cool. I was almost wondering if he was adding Amy I because Matt Thiessen would be there. He actually showed up. Matt Thiessen showed up at Pen and Piano in Nashville when he was at that stop. So I was like, oh, maybe, but that didn't happen. But that's totally okay. But
Yeah.
Ivory Lane was like my favorite moment from that. And then we were talking about my favorite moment in St. Louis had to be during Ruthless when he looked at me and everything.
Oh yeah, man. Ruthless was amazing when I saw that Something Corporate perform that in Vegas, and that's a special one. That was, again, we talked about chasing songs, like that's right in there, just like for you.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing. I would have loved to see Halls. I've seen Halls before, but probably like the mixtape and a lot of these other songs, like I'll take Halls every time. Like it's just such a special song to me.
I was really happy to get Halls. I haven't seen that since Pen and Piano, so I was really, really, really excited. I actually, because it was right after Little Disaster, and I was so caught up in the show, like I knew the intro that they were playing, but I didn't even register it as Halls. I was just like, oh yeah, I know this song, and then I'm like, oh my god, it's Halls. So it was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about the karaoke thing, because that was something we mentioned at the top of the episode, and it's something really unique they were doing this tour, right? So we kind of already talked about like how that all came about in terms of, the people they picked, and so you went to sound check, so you went to VIP, so you knew what you were getting in terms of who was singing. I didn't, except I knew who won because they advertised on Instagram, like basically as doors were opening. I was looking at Instagram as we were walking in, and like they did announce who the winner was. I didn't know up until that point. So tell me, what songs were done at the cities that you saw the tour on?
I didn't know who was singing on the songs. He just soundchecked Straw Dog, and so he played it twice while we were waiting outside to go in. So we were in a hallway and we could hear him. He played it through twice, and then he opened with a Nirvana cover, which is Smells Like Teen Spirit, of like the first verse and the chorus, which is really cool.
That's pretty incredible. That is not what I would have ever expected out of Andrew McCann in the Wilderness.
Yeah, no, I've never seen him. He does The Distance by Cake, and he does a couple others during soundcheck. Like I've seen him do American Girl live. I've seen him do at the actual show. I've seen him do Walking on a Dream, but I've never seen him do like one of his like special like only soundcheck songs. So that was a really cool moment for me. We were talking, I'm like, man, playing through Straw Dog twice, and we were talking outside. I'm like, I bet it's a karaoke song. And then there were several kids at soundcheck, so he let them pick the songs. I think there were 3 kids. Let all 3 kids pick different songs, and then was like, well, we're playing a song tonight that we don't know because it's the requested song from karaoke, and so we're gonna run through Straw Dog again. So that's the only way I knew that. That's why I knew that, but he didn't have the singer on stage with him. And funny story, I actually told the singer before his set, I was using the bathroom. The guy came in and he was wearing this hat that looked like a skunk, and I was like, I like your hat. And then I was like, oh, hey, that's the guy I told I liked his hat and singing on stage. But
so you talked to him before, but you didn't realize he was the karaoke singer.
No, yeah, I didn't know who he was. I saw him get let in before VIP, and I was like, oh, I wonder what his story is. And his family came in with him, and I was like, oh, dude, I wonder who. And anyway, yeah. And then in Nashville, it was Dark Blue.
Ours was Birthday Song. So the guy who won in Columbus, he's obviously a professional musician. Like if you watched his reel, or you saw him perform, or you just search him on Spotify or YouTube, he is a somewhat local professional musician, and he sounds great. Like well-produced stuff. And so in his reel, like you could tell, he was playing the piano and he was singing, but it sounded professional. It's very clear why he was picked. My guess is when they look at who to pick, this is just speculation, they not only take into account talent and someone who's going to know the song, but I'm pretty sure they need someone to get up there and be confident. That's something that I would not be able to have, right? But you got to put on a good show. Just like when Andrew and all the guys go on stage, they got to put on a good show. People will appreciate that. They'll want to come back. They'll enjoy it. They'll have a good time. You don't want someone to get up there and freeze and not know what they're doing and be nervous and like run off stage or something. It doesn't want to embarrass anybody. So I think part of that choice, again, this is all speculation on my part, because I've looked at everybody they've picked. They all seem to be pretty confident people to get up there on stage and just do their thing. They've all done a really good job. I've been impressed with the videos I've seen.
Yes.
So Zach in Columbus fit the bill. He got up there and my God, like I don't know how much he rehearsed, but it felt like he rehearsed a lot because he got up there and he owned it. But I got the whole thing I did record that whole thing on video, and I thought if no one else is recording it, I'm going to, not only because it's a song that I didn't know I'd ever hear in concert, but also I thought it was special that it was this guy up on stage. And I knew he was going to do a good job from seeing his reel. So I wanted to capture that too, and it was good. And so that's on YouTube. I'll link that one in the show notes. Speaking of links, I'll link Julie's Kill the Messenger in the show notes. And then also we got two different views of New Friends because I didn't know my wife was back by where we were standing the majority of the show taking video of that song. And then my daughter took video of the whole song from up front. So we technically have two views of New Friends, and those are both on YouTube. Going back to Zach for just a second, he seemed like a nice guy. He saw us on the sidewalk afterwards and came up and introduced himself. Just seemed like a nice dude. And my kids were excited. They were like, "Wow, that was the guy on stage," kind of like meeting Andrew McMahon. Like, "Oh my God, that's the guy." We all said hi and told him he did a great job, and he seemed really gracious. It was a good choice for karaoke. Hopefully you had a similar experience with the people who did karaoke for you, because like I said at the top of the episode, it's like when someone else is going to be singing the song that you know and love, it's like, well, I kind of want to see Andrew and the guys doing the song I know and love, but hopefully this works out too.
I had a very similar experience with the karaoke, especially in St. Louis. Though the woman in Nashville absolutely killed it. Dark Blue, oh my gosh, sounded so good. So that's something we talked about while waiting, and when Straw Dog was being played, I was like, oh, I wonder if the karaoke person. And we were talking about, like, I have no desire to be on stage doing that. Like, this is my spot. That's his spot up there. We'll keep it that way. Like, yes, I definitely think that I know in St. Louis they'd pick someone who was a musician, and it sounds like at your show they did too. And I'm wondering in Nashville, I don't know the woman's background, but I'm guessing she's a professional. She's a professional musician. So it's just a way that she was so confident, just sang it, belted it out. There was no like hesitation. That amazed me. I was like, they're not picking just a fan who wants to sing a song. They're picking people that, like you said, have a little bit of professional experience, maybe play like in a bar band at least, type of thing. And so I think that was intentional. And then in St. Louis, the guy, his name is Ace, and his video is on the Pop Underground group on Facebook. He's actually in that group. It's on Instagram. I don't know what his name is. I'll send you the link over so you can put it in the show notes.
Okay.
His first request was Constantine, and I was told by his manager that he couldn't do Constantine. And then, for obvious reasons. And then was told by his manager, or by Andrew's manager, that his only option was La La Lie. And so when he got to the show to rehearse, he asked Andrew if he could do Straw Dog. So that's why they ran through it 3 different times. He actually posted this on the Pop Underground page, and he's like, Andrew, being the amazing person, was like, let's do it. Screw it. Let's go for it. Let's do this song.
That's amazing. How special.
Yeah. And he was incredible. Like, jumping around the stage, going. So the person in Nashville just stood behind the piano, which is totally fine. That's enough. Like, you're on stage singing with Andrew.
I get the impression that's what they're told to do, because I've seen multiple videos where they're standing behind the piano. They're probably told that, but I've noticed a couple of them have come out.
Yeah, this guy danced all around the stage, jumped. Like, one of the cool moments at the very end where he, like, the ending to Star Dog, where you have the final note on the piano, like, jumped in sync with and came down as Andrew was playing the final note. And Andrew was watching him. They were cueing off each other. Andrew was having a blast. Like, that was so cool. He was so good. And he actually dropped a Constantine acoustic cover, I think, yesterday. So
oh, wow.
He put, I think the caption to his Instagram post was like, last night was like the best night of my life playing with Andrew McMahon on stage. So that was really cool.
You know, while you were telling me about Dark Blue in Nashville, yeah, I realized that I can't believe I didn't come to this realization earlier, that I know who you're talking about because she was one of the very memorable reels that my kids and I watched back in October.
Okay.
And I started following her on Instagram as a result of it. Her name's Rihanna Estrada. And
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I didn't put that together. That was the Nashville show, but I should have known that's the Nashville because I know that's where she's from following her. So, and I did see the video. I saw that the video of Ace was posted, but I have not. And I saw some of the comments. I have not watched that one yet. I'll put that one in the show notes if I can get find a link to it. So I look forward to watching that one too. Straw Dog with a different vocalist. I can't even imagine, but I'm looking forward to it.
Birthday song with a different vocalist. I can't imagine that. So
yeah, it was so cool how they traded off. It was like they did a really good job with that. It's to put that together between a sound check and then on stage. You know, I know Andrew's a professional. I know the guys in the band, they're all professionals. But man, that stuff surprises me that they can put that together inside of a day. In a different one every day of the tour. I don't expect Andrew McMahon and the Wilderness to do this on every tour, and I hope they don't do it on every tour, but it was neat for them to do it on this tour. So
yeah,
it's a special, unique thing. We kind of skipped right over openers earlier, but we definitely need to talk about that. So Wilderness opened the show, and then Michigander. What did you think about those? You got to see them twice, so what did you think about the openers?
Michigander was not in St. Louis. They had a separate show after the Madison show. They met him in Madison, then drove down to St. Louis the next night and had a solo show next to the pageant, which is, I can't remember, the Del Mar Music Hall. But
okay,
so they were not in St. Louis. I was really, really disappointed, I should say. I loved them. I loved Michigander. These, to me, I can't really pick between Floor and Grisfolk versus Michigander and Wilderness as the best opening acts that he's had on his tours since I've seen him.
I remember you saying that on a television episode. I forgot that until now. That you did say, you told me you got to watch these two opening acts.
Yeah, Michigander is so good. And what was cool about Wilderness in Nashville, because it was like a local band who opened, and they were good, but Wilderness got a longer set because of it, and it was definitely varied. It was varied up. That was a lot of fun because they got to kind of change up stuff. And I'm pretty sure that they probably, being an opening act, I'd have to go back and look at their set list, but I'd imagine they don't vary it that much, obviously, because like they're an opening act. I mean, and they're trying to promote the new album.
Yeah, obviously. They're promoting certain songs, yeah.
I actually got to meet them at both shows and got a signed vinyl from them. I was going to buy Michigander's vinyl too, but they weren't there, and I was like, oh no,
disappointing,
because I didn't buy it in Nashville, and I was really disappointed. I was like, oh man, I wish I would have purchased that. Because just a quick plug for all of you live music junkies out there, that buying merch is the best way to support any band,
definitely,
because that is where they get the majority of their profit, because none of the music services we listen to pay the bands. So definitely buy a shirt or other items when you see
vinyl, or
especially smaller bands like that, where it's like these aren't the ones that are the headliners. Not that you shouldn't support Andrew either, but
so I didn't know Michigander at all leading up to the show. I listened to some of their work before I talked to you, even more after I talked to you. I knew Wilderness. So Wilderness, that's the third time I've, I guess in a way, inadvertently seen Wilderness live, because I've seen them at the Rock Boat, the first one I went to, same one that Andrew McMahon was on. And then I saw them open for Jukebox the Ghost last April, and I enjoyed them both times. And then I saw them open for Andrew McMahon last week. And so I've now seen them 3 times, which is odd because like there's not too many bands I've seen 3 times that I don't like try to go see, right? Mm-hmm. So they've just been doing the rounds in the genre I like, apparently. And so it made me excited to see them again.
She's a really good vocalist.
Yeah. What they remind me of, by the way, at least on the album, not New Paramore, but Hayley Williams solo. Have you heard those couple albums she did right around the beginning of the pandemic?
I actually haven't, so I'll have to
Okay.
go back and listen to those.
Because I heard them basically around the same time, her albums and Wilderness's album that they had released up to that point. And I've listened to the new album. I enjoy that. I thought it was interesting what they were doing on stage. I don't normally, so she was doing a lot with the synthesizer, keyboard, mixer, whatever that was, whatever that machine was. She was like singing into her microphone and then kind of playing it back in some distorted way. And so I enjoyed that aspect. Michigander was more of like the classic type of band that I would have expected.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? With Michigander, I thought it was going to be like a guy and his guitar. But I think that's what I got used to. Like, I saw William Beckett open in Chicago last November for Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. And then I saw William Griffin Sherry open for them in May. And so I guess I was just expecting a guy with an acoustic guitar because that's what his album sounds like. In the case of Michigander, I actually like them better live than I did on the album. But now that I've heard them live, I want to go back to listen to the albums and probably enjoy them more. It's like I understood it more once it was live with the full band. It seems like you're having a similar reaction, huh?
I totally agree. I think also there was a picture posted of him with an acoustic guitar.
Yes.
And I was like,
it was just him.
It's just him, an acoustic guitar.
He's Michigander.
I thought the exact same thing. When they came out, they were a full band. I was like, oh, this is a full band. Okay, let's do this. And they were great.
Yep.
Also, album-wise, they don't exactly sound the same on the album. So, also, when I listened to him on the album, it sounded like a guy in acoustic guitar, and I wasn't like super into it like initially. But then live, I was like, oh, this is awesome. I love this band. So again, I need to go back and listen to the albums now.
Yeah, that's cool. I completely agree with that. So I'm glad you enjoyed them. I forgot to ask you earlier, who did you go with to these two shows?
I originally thought I was going to be in Nashville by myself. And then my buddy, Stewie Stewart, who a lot of you know the Stewarts, ended up going. And he messaged me out of the blue. So everyone, it seemed like, all of the Midwestern kind of crew that would maybe be in Nashville, everybody went to Austin, and a lot of them went to Las Vegas. So it's like I highly doubt. I was like, well, I was kind of mentally prepared. I was like, well, I'm just going to go to the show by myself, have a great time. It's going to be great, you know. But I legitimately did not expect to run into any of my friends there. And then Stewie messaged me out of the blue. He ended up getting a free VIP ticket from somebody who was giving one away on Camp Wilderness. And he was like, you're going to be in Nashville, right? I was like, yeah. He's like, I'm doing VIP. And I was like, well, let me go talk to Michelle and see if she'll let me do VIP twice, because we had VIP for St. Louis already. So, and then...
Oh, okay. So your Nashville VIP was a late ad.
Yeah. And then, amazingly enough, it didn't sell out in Nashville. A lot of the VIPs sold out, so that was really fortunate.
Yeah, they all did up here. Columbus, Chicago, Madison. I know all of them sold out because people were like hunting for them.
Yeah, so that worked out really well. And then St. Louis, I went with my wife, which was awesome. We stayed. That was kind of a cool thing. We've never stayed that close to the venue. We usually do Airbnb, but I actually have a deal through an old job I have on hotels, and we stayed in the Moonrise, which is right next to the pageant, and that was really nice, not having to go anywhere after the show. Just walk over to the hotel and go up to the room, and we went and got some food down the road. Didn't go see Andrew after the show. We're like, well, we already talked to him, and it's really cold, and let's just go get food and go to bed.
Yeah, for me, in Columbus, it was kind of a unique show in who we went with, because it was actually a very unique show, because usually it's just my wife and I that go. A few years ago, we invited some of our good friends that live on our street to join us for the Upside Down Flowers tour, and that was fun. And so we asked one of the couples, again, the ones who live next door to us, and they ended up meeting us there for the concert. So that was their second Andrew show with us.
Oh, that's cool.
But also, and completely separately, but it all worked out, Marcy has some friends from college who have been longtime Andrew McMahon fans. And he was playing in Cleveland as well, by the way, which is where they live. But we couldn't make it up to Cleveland on that specific night because we had a family thing. So we said, well, if you guys want to come down to Columbus, come stay with us overnight. We can all go to the show together. So they actually met us in Columbus. We had dinner together before the show. and then walked in the venue together. And then our other friends from down the street joined us. So it was a nice big group of us, actually. And I saw some other people that I knew inside the venue. So I got to say hi to several people during the show, which was cool. It's always fun to, even if you just get to wave hi or whatever, just see each other in passing. It's comfortable. All right, let's wrap this up. So let's talk about the elephant in the room on Instagram recently. So Andrew made some comments about not touring for a while. He said something like, it's going to be a good long while before I go on tour again, so make sure you come out and see me. How did you interpret that?
One, I was sad. I think we all were. Mm-hmm. But then also, like, the next immediate thought, I think I had like a gut reaction post about it on Facebook, but the more cooler heads prevailing is like, well, if anyone deserves a break, it's Andrew, right? He's toured. Sure. There were 80 some chances to see him in 2023 alone. Like, that's amazing.
Insane.
His schedule is insane. He has a daughter who's growing up quickly. I'm sure he wants to spend time at home. I'm sure the guy wants to just sit down and like write music. I think we're probably going to get at least a good part of an album completed out of this, where he'll have pretty much finished up songs by the time he does do a tour again. But I also think that a good long while to us, I think when we see other bands take hiatuses, we think a couple years or like a year. Right. I don't necessarily think that's what Andrew means. I think it's going to be a little quicker than that. I will say my fundraising team, Drinks for Dear Jack, ended up raising the most money out of all the teams, and our prize is a VIP pass or VIP passes to any one of his tour stops in 2024. So obviously and this is according to his management, the only things he has on his schedule right now are the New Year's Eve shows and the cruise. Mm-hmm. And he mentioned some one-off tour dates in the summer, or not tour dates, festival dates in the summer. But obviously he wouldn't be doing his own VIP for festivals. So that prize speculates that there is going to be a tour at some point next year. We just don't know exactly when it's going to happen. So I would guess that he is going to tour next year. And also, if he doesn't, more power to the guy. I processed it of like, okay, I can live without his music for live for a year and a half if it means that, he just comes back. And I mean, but obviously he loves touring. He loves the road. He loves playing shows. It's what
he's not giving that up.
He's not giving that up, right? He's not. It would be pretty normal for any musician to take a break from winter to like spring or summer, right, for a tour.
Spring or summer, yeah. Or the next album even. Like that's perfectly normal to for a band or an artist to say, "Oh, this is the end of the tour and now I'm going to go write an album. I'm going to record that album and then I'm going to tour that album." And it might be a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like that would be a normal cycle. But we're just so used to having Andrew tour every year and sometimes more than once a year. Yeah. I think we got really spoiled these last couple of years. We'll see him in the summer. I'm pretty sure in some capacity at some show we'll see him in the summer. Like you mentioned, the festivals, and then after the Something Corporate stuff this winter, of course. But I'm sure there'll be some kind of event or tour prior to the cruise next November. So I'll tell you what, it didn't worry me a bit once I watched the video. I was like, oh, yeah, that's normal. just like a regular artist then. Okay. I'm glad we got a chance to sit down and talk. Those of you listening now will hear this as part 2 of the New Friends Tour recap. And Andrew, it was great talking to you. Always a good time. So this was awesome. Like we got to go through the set list. Like that's the deepest I've ever dug into a set list from a show, I gotta say. But I enjoyed it, and hopefully you did too.
Yeah, this is a blast.
And Andrew's got to have some shows in 2024 because we need to get together. So either way.
Yes. Especially if they're like one-offs and it's in Cincy. We're going to Cincy, believe me. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of cities between you and I. So we'll figure it out. Cool. As always, good time, good talk. And we'll be talking soon, all right?
All right, sounds good.